Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again today to D News Plus. This is episode 3 of 5 in our series all about tobacco. We're not talking about cancer and emphysema. We're talking about where the stuff came from. What is this plant that everybody carries around or used to carry around? And what is it doing to you? But not in the cancer-y way, again. We're also going to talk about what's been added to cigarettes and smoking implements over the years, the psychology of putting something in your mouth and that is burning. And also, we're going to talk about vaping and a whole bunch of other stuff. So make sure you stay around and tune in for this whole episode and all of our other episodes. Subscribe. Today's commercial cigarette is not the same as it was at the end of the Civil War, right? In the last 150 years, things have changed a little bit. They're much, much worse now. It used to just be this leaf thing that you rolled up in paper, stuck in your mouth, and lit the end on fire, which is weird. Let me admit it, it's kind of a weird thing. But regardless of how weird it is, that's not what we do anymore. Public outcry for safer cigarettes started around the 1950s. Historians refer to this period as the tar derby. People started to worry about their health in relation to this activity that half the country was doing called smoking. Cigarette companies responded by offering several filtered cigarette options. A little orange thing on the end of the cigarette. The filter was there supposedly to reduce tar levels in tobacco smoke, make the cigarette healthier, right? But it was mostly just a marketing dealio thingy. Tar levels were reduced from 38 milligrams of tar and 2.7 milligrams of nicotine in 1954 to 12 milligrams of tar and 0.95 milligrams of nicotine in 1993. Essentially, in case you're not good at keeping all those numbers in your head, from 54 to 93, they're about a third of what they used to be. Later evidence was presented that showed that tar and nicotine, they didn't actually affect the levels of health that people who were smoking these cigarettes were experiencing, because the filters were exposing the people to other toxins. The filters. Before 1950, only 0.6% of cigarettes were filtered, but by 1960, in just 10 years, 51% of the entire cigarette market had filtered cigarettes. By 2005, 99% of the market had filtered cigarettes. Science was trying to make people healthier and not doing a great job at it. In the 1960s, tobacco companies put more money into researching safe cigarettes. I'm putting safe in quotes here. The research focused on reducing 4 main ingredients: nitrosamines, most people saw these as the leading cause of cancer from tobacco smoke; aldehydes, which you probably recognize from things like formaldehyde; polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, they form when organic things are burned, like wood or oil or gasoline, and of course tobacco plants. There are also traces of heavy metals in tobacco from fertilizers, because remember, it's a plant. So those 4 main ingredients were things that they were trying to reduce. But they didn't want to affect the smoking preferences of their customers. So when levels of these things were altered, sometimes other harmful chemicals would raise up. Or the cigarette would become less appealing to their consumers, and then they wouldn't have bought them. So the ingredients persisted until, in 1994, Congress pressured tobacco companies to release the 599 top secret chemicals that they add to cigarettes. Now, I know this is an episode on tobacco, but just for a minute, let's take a little aside. Talk about the 598 ingredients in a cigarette that aren't tobacco. These contribute to how smoking becomes addicting and also dangerous. In 2014, the Surgeon General reported that modern cigarettes led to a much higher risk of lung cancer and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and addiction and, of course, death. You know that. Independent studies have shown that today's cigarettes are specifically designed to be more addictive. You might know that too. But how? 1, they increase the level of nicotine, the addictive substance. They increase the levels of ammonia and ammonia compounds in the cigarettes. By doing that, it decreases the time that it takes for the nicotine to get into your brain. Philip Morris was the first tobacco manufacturer to discover that these ammonia compounds made the nicotine hit you quicker. And ammonia compounds did this by increasing the pH or alkalinity of the smoke. They convert the nicotine molecules into freebase nicotine, something less complex and more readily absorbed. It gets you a faster and more intense smoking fix. So once they did that, it was better for the company. They also added, this might surprise you, sugars. Because America. We like sugar and everything, even our smoking. Aside from tobacco, sugar is the main ingredient in Marlboro cigarettes. A manly cowboy brand? Sugar. That might seem harmless, but when the sugar burns, it forms acetaldehyde, which is an addiction-enhancing brain chemical, which manipulates the parts of the brain to react to nicotine even more. And, of course, causes cancer. Awesome. Burning sugar neutralizes the harsher taste of some tobaccos too, making it easier to inhale. It's not just the manipulation of the addictive part of the cigarette, it's also making the experience of smoking somehow, again, finger quotes, better. Modern cigarettes alter their sensory attributes like taste or smell, which makes it easier for new users to get into it. Mostly, of course, kids. They add something called, and I don't know how to pronounce this, but levulinic acid. It's a type of acid salt, and it desensitizes the upper respiratory tract so that the smoke can go into your lungs more easily. You can inhale more of it more quickly. They add flavorings, enhancing the sweetness of tobacco, similar to the sugars. Things like chocolate or licorice or cocoa. When burned, these things produce a variety of other chemicals that make it easier for cigarette smoke to penetrate our lungs, getting to our brain more quickly, but also creating toxins and carcinogens. They also include bronchodilators, which expand the lungs' airways so smoke can get into the lungs more easily, again, increasing the amount of nicotine that would hit your brain. And a lot of people smoke something called menthol. Menthols numb the throat to make the smoke feel different, more smooth, they say. It makes the throat less irritated, and that way, say it with me now, you can smoke more. Makes sense, right? So tobacco companies, because this is their job, they're wanting to create the best product for their consumers, and they're getting away with all of these changes until in 2009, POTUS Obama signed into law the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. This gave the FDA full authority to regulate basically every aspect of the tobacco process, from manufacturing, marketing, all the way to the sales of the product itself. This new law restricts tobacco advertising and promotion in order to promote overall public health and a variety of other things. And according to a study published in the American Journal of Public Health, tobacco companies are now required to provide a confidential list of additives to the federal government each year. Before this legislation was passed, tobacco companies sort of did as they pleased to try and get as many people to buy their product and enjoy it as possible, as they saw it anyway. The FDA looked at food and drugs, but tobacco, that was off limits. It was a different product. Now, that's not the case. How do you guys feel about that? Let us know down in the comments. And do you think if people knew everything about the cigarettes and all of the chemicals in there and all of that stuff, they would still start smoking? Because they do, right? We've been hearing a lot of these messages for years that people add all of this stuff. So why do some people start smoking and other people don't? Is it the addiction part? Is it peer pressure? Your parents? Personality traits? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe so you can get to the psychology of smoking tobacco, which we're going to get into tomorrow. And thank you for watching D News Plus. Come find me on Twitter. I'm at Trace Dominguez if you want to talk about this or any of our other episodes or suggest future episodes of D News Plus. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.